So, David, welcome to this episode here. Super excited to speak just around operational efficiency, founder burnout, and we'll see where the rest take us. Thank you very much for being on.
Pleasure, Ethan. Pleasure.
Very good. Could you start by just describing sort of a little bit about your role at CounterCraft and what that looks like?
Yeah, sure. So for my sins, I was brought in by the VCs 2.5 years ago, one of whom I'd worked with in a previous venture, a company called Security Matters. We sold that on, sold that to Forescout. So that was a good outcome for everybody. And they felt that this was a business that kind of needed a bit of commercial help to steer it in the right direction.
Okay.
18 months ago, took over as CEO. So the sudden realization, Ethan, now it's all my fault. And we're doing okay. You know, we're in what's been, I think, a bad year for the cybersecurity industry and many industries in general. Without disclosing our numbers and being hideous about it, will be 45% or more up on last year. We've signed up the last year or so 8 or 9 nation states, a number of the leading global financial community, so the largest banks, stock exchanges, signed a couple of those up as well.
Wow.
We're starting to do that bit where you cross the chasm, and the chasm's all about moving to that place where you're profitable.
Okay.
In today's changed market, profitability, profitable, efficient growth, the keys unlock for the kingdom. And was it 3 or 5 years ago? It was all about getting ever increasing rounds of tens and hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And today you're faced with you'll never get out. And we're seeing companies going bust, haven't we, over this last year because the emperor's new clothes raised tons of cash and then floundered. So our bit is cybersecurity, and as the tagline says, we provide actionable and specific threat intelligence using deception.
Okay, and what did you do so differently that actually allowed you to have the 45% growth? Because honestly, I've spoken with a lot of these guys, and a lot of these guys were saying what you said: rough year, 10% growth, negative growth.
Well,
like I just literally got off the call yesterday with somebody where it's like, yeah, we lost $1 million this past year. It's like, crap. Like, what are you guys doing differently?
Well, at least they've been honest. So whoever they are, all credit to them.
Yeah.
What did we do differently? Focus, really. So it's good old-fashioned stuff about knowing what your ICP is, focus on that. I could tell you there's been nights in the last year and a bit where I sort of wish that we hadn't focused on national security and defense because, God, they know how to move your deals to the right-hand side.
Yeah.
If it wasn't on this podcast, I'd tell you we're running a deal with a nation state where you even talk to the prime minister and they still move the deal to the right-hand side. Punted that out a quarter or two or more, just because nation state economics. And I must admit, I thought that talking to somebody who Putin had threatened to assassinate would get me closer to the deal, right? No, apparently not. So, stick to the knitting, do the hard work. I think there was rude awakening for many that even though you got a good fit with your ICPs, decision community is much bigger than it ever has been, 30% bigger. Why? Because in a period of uncertainty, buyers like to do that bit of spreading the decision out across even more people, which means you need to talk to more people. And then you've got to face the fact that you've got to cut through all the noise. So you better be clear on how you're helping your end customer to overcome their business problem. Not, this is really neat stuff. Why don't you try it? Our technology is better than the other technology.
For sure. And I think that's where a
However
lot
many
of
years
people,
ago, people got away with it, didn't they? So yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people mess up where they just, you basically have to put, from my understanding and the successful guys I've spoken with, that you got to put those cybersecurity terms in terms of business,
Yeah.
because you really are talking to the business guys. They don't know what a pen test is. They don't they don't know what a phishing attempt is really, but they're like money in, money out. And so then you just got to show them. I guess, how do you go about showing them that in that the business speak or whatever you want to call it?
Well, it depends who and what you're talking to and about. But
Mm,
the easiest one is time to fix. So we might talk about remediation, and but let's dial it right down. It's time to fix. How long does it take to fix that problem? Um, and you really have to put it in those terms because you're competing for a lot of money. You're
yeah.
competing with a lot of other people for that
Hmm.
money. And rude awakening. We're talking to a bank, right?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks the bank's got loads of money, but they don't. Yeah, you're picking on names. So I had to pick on names of, but we were recently talking about Capital One, right?
Yeah.
Huge company, and US auto loans. They're facing a real squeeze because of. So actually, you're talking to banks that themselves facing financial squeezes, and so yeah, absolutely, you've got to talk about what are you saving in terms of time to fix.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's about the unit economics, and you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
Other times it's also because in our space, well, they don't have the people. In cybersecurity, there's a statistic that we're something like 1 million employees short around the world, right? So you add on to that some businesses are squeezed, so they're shedding people. It's not making it any better.
Yeah.
And if you're a bank,
And then you have to deal with like burnout of cybersecurity folks having to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
So couple of that's a really well thought thing there. So if you're talking about time to fix, actually, there's a couple of points there. Yes, everybody wants to get the outcome faster.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody would like to reduce the cost of operation, but if you're that kind of squeeze, you can't. The things you
Yeah.
have to worry about is finite labor pool. I've only got so many people. Ethan, these people have only got so many hours per day, right? Now everything is on fire. It's not an exaggeration, but if everything
Yeah.
is really, really busy, well, how can they do as much as they possibly can that is of value to the company without burning themselves out?
Yeah.
So we always talk about the sausage machine. So the sausage machine's got a finite hole. You can only squeeze so much stuff through the hole.
Mhm.
So it's all about, and they're never going to be looking at cost reduction in terms of reducing the number of employees because there's all those other stuff there. It's purely about how can I get as much as I possibly can that I prioritize fixed as fast as I possibly can so I'm safe as
Yeah.
quickly as I can be with the limited labor pool I've got.
Yep.
Making it easy. Because I mean, that's the
For
other
sure.
thing. Especially in today's world, it is COVID, right? We're all talking about nobody's got an attention span anymore.
Yep.
So how can I get to understand what it is you do, understand what it means to me in an economic term, because I've got to go get approval for it. How
Yep.
can I make it easy to digest? And that's something we've really been working hard on is the demystification. How can we make this simple?
And have you guys explored? I'm curious. I've spoken with some guys doing this quite well. Have you guys explored doing any sort of like content in order to do that exactly what you're talking about, like the education, the short form attention spans are short, even the 40, 50-year olds. It's not just the Generation Z or whatever.
Well, you're going to be insulting my generational stuff.
Well, at least I didn't mess up and call you a baby boomer or something.
I think yes, we're doing more and more of that.
Okay.
Um, we built a university. Well, we had a university program. We called it the Academy, and we're doing lots of work on self-learning.
Okay.
Doing that in this type of medium. So there's lots of videos and interaction and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, most certainly we are. I think the content piece, yeah, we're starting to do more and more of it.
Okay.
Um, I think there is a bit of a crossover for us. You'll see us talk a lot more in the new year. We're starting to roll out those programs about what it is we do and how we do it.
Yep.
Um, I have a little bit of a problem. So when you get to the nation state level stuff, yeah, he's probably not the world's best thing to go broadcast exactly how you could do it.
Okay.
Um, and even there, we took a conscious step
Hmm.
um, to enable our partners and our customers to do their own delivery of,
Okay.
so that we end up at being more of an arm's length away from it because, well, actually, that just makes it so much easier for our end customer to consume.
Arm's length away from what specifically?
So I've always I've got the wrong accent. So I'm not a native New Yorker. I come from outside London, right? So if I come to your part of the world, I've got the wrong accent, I've got the wrong passport, and whatever security clearance I bring with me, it's probably incorrect for the place I'm working.
Yeah.
So we put a lot of focus on content, media, training, all the other things to enable our partners, in your case being in the US or wherever they might be, the Middle East or somewhere in Europe, so
Hmm.
that they can do the deployments on the customer's behalf.
Okay.
And that makes it easy because they've got all the right purchasing agreements, they've got all the right clearances,
Hmm.
everything is easier for the customer. So it's a bit strange, yes, content, but actually it's ultra focused content to enable those people to understand what we could do for
Uh-huh.
them that I'm not
So
necessarily going to put on
you're trying to
TikTok.
like basically educate people, if I'm understanding correctly, educate your partners on what they can do with your service. Is that correct?
Yeah, and educate them and the customer so that they can be completely technically self-sufficient without us.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to get it to the point where it's like the dash lane, where you just say dash lane and everyone gets it. Not only the people who could resell dash lane, for example, but
Yep.
also the people who would use it. Okay, and how do you? One thing that it's a common problem is finding quality partners that A, actually go and resell your stuff, B, do it right and like do it consistently. How do you go about how do you go about getting good partners? Like I think you partner with MSSPs, correct?
We partner with MSSPs, we partner with global systems integrators. So um, some people will probably kill for our partner network. So
Yeah.
in no particular order, I'd talk about Accenture. I'd talk about Booz Allen. I'd talk about Deloitte. I'd talk about Thales. Right?
Yeah,
They're not bad names to have.
for sure.
And then we start going into sort of the more boutique kind of companies beneath them.
Hmm.
Um, and how do we go select? Well, the selection bit is easy. If you know your ICP, so you know who you want to go sell to.
Hmm.
Many years ago, I used to talk about sharks and pilot fish. So if you think about the persona of your CISO as being the shark,
Yeah.
when you watch the movies, the pilot fish, the little fish that swim along, well, that's it. They've got their favorite group of systems integrators they want to work with.
Yep.
Um, if you're a company or a nation of scale, Accenture, Booz Allen, Deloitte, and Thales, and then the list sort of probably drops off.
Hmm.
Yes, you'd have your ensigns, and yes, you'd have your sites, depending on where you are in the world.
Yep.
But yeah, you drop off the table fairly quickly after that. So that's easy to identify who you want to go work with.
Hmm.
But how you go work with them, well, I hate to say, I've got a bit of grey hair. I've earned it. So either I went and hired somebody I'd worked with before. Between us, we knew who we wanted to go target.
Yep.
We knew what it was they wanted, and we made it as easy as possible for them to sign up with a process that they understood that took
Hmm.
them from that looks interesting. Can I make any money out of it? how do I train my people? How do I deliver my first solutions, and how do we sustain it after that? Breaking it
Yeah.
down into not what we want, but what they want. How can we make each of those steps easy? And it's not an overnight thing. And again, did you know that if you broke it down, Accenture is probably it's certainly the largest software distribution company globally. It's probably could rank as being one of the largest software companies if you truly analysed it.
Uh-huh. I didn't know that. I
Um,
had never thought of it that way, I guess.
Orders of magnitude. Well, think of it this way: all the security vendors like us, all of the profitability improvement, all the supply chain.
Hmm.
Who do they look to deploy on big scale stuff? It's
Yeah.
them. It's them. I pick an Accenture. You go look at Booz or Deloitte or whoever. Significant values. It's
Hmm.
them. And if you want to scale, if you're a company like ours and you want to scale,
Yeah.
that's how you do it really quickly and efficiently. Is make yourself relevant and interesting to them.
Hmm. Absolutely. And making themselves relevant and interesting to them. And then it's all about shaking hands. And
I wish
then,
it was that easy.
yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to think a bit of light and magic and stuff,
Okay.
which is a euphemism for lots of hard work. But then
Yeah.
that enables you to scale. You have to take opportunities to them. It's not like they'll just say, CounterCraft's the greatest thing in the world, which they should. And then they'll just bring deals to your table. You've got to start feeding them to prime the machine, to understand how they work, to understand how you get to the right people,
Yeah.
and start talking in their language about how they can sell more professional services. Because again, dirty secret, they'll make some margin on reselling my stuff, but actually what they really want is all the professional services wrapper and the sustainment wrapper. And when we
Mhm.
discover something bad, they want the ticket, the golden ticket that says, go fix that fast.
Yep. That's when they get their teeth in and then they go in and do their thing.
And do their thing. Exactly that.
For sure. Okay. Very interesting. And what do you feel like is your biggest frustration at the moment when it comes to maybe growing the business, or I guess like on the business development side of things? Like, what's your biggest frustration there? I've heard a lot of different interesting things.
Well, other than we haven't been recognized for our ability at global domination across, we did when a euro, we were recognized in the Euros 100 a couple of weeks ago. So we are one of Europe's top 100 companies. We got that.
Very
I'm
nice.
a Fast 50 fast company this year.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing okay with that.
Yeah.
Um, I think biggest frustration for me, I'm mildly impatient about everything, and so I'm sure everybody who works with me will be saying about why we've not done everything faster.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in terms of frustration, no, I think I am frustrated with the market in general and things that I cannot change. I think you just have to have the serenity to accept there's stuff you can't change and there's stuff that you can work at consciously every single day.
Uh-huh.
Um, the bit that you talked about earlier on about going shaking hands,
Yeah.
I get frustrated that there's so many people sitting at their desks, talking to other people on computers rather than getting out there and drinking the coffee and
Yep.
talking to the people, because we're in a relationship business. We're just dragging technology
Yeah.
along.
For sure. Yeah. And it's no, I mean that's one of the things. Like I'm out here in Dubai, and back home. I'm based in Austin, Texas, so big cybersecurity city. So
Yeah.
I've always been able to go out and have the coffees, whatever. And then Dubai is also not a bad place for cybersecurity type
So
companies.
I love Dubai.
Yeah.
I just come back from Riyadh, so I was at Black Hat last
Yep.
week. And again, talk about have the coffee, eat the dates, sit and chat to people.
Yeah.
I think that way you get much further. I mean, you're immersing yourself in a Middle Eastern, I mean, Dubai. Yeah, I'd say it's Middle East for. It sounds terrible. Middle East for beginners. It's so easy to do everything in Dubai. It's such a melting pot. But if you're working and being successful there, it's all about the connection and the people and the real tangible interactions you have with them, not
Mhm.
just delivering a TikTok video, blasting out a nothing email that doesn't get read. It's about having coffee, shaking hands, building relationships,
Mhm.
and finding something that you can do of value for each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the value is so important. And I also think you um like when it comes to like networking, I think if you just go network just to network, I think it doesn't really translate well. I think if you just go out to like see what you can do for people, and then it's like, okay, there's some goodwill there, then we go from there. I think that's sort of the way to do it.
I think 100%. To be Yeah, it really is 100% because you never know. Um, I think the phrase I've been using a lot the last few weeks is I hear what's in it for us, but what's in it for them.
Yeah.
I understand why you want the outcome to be that, but
Mhm.
what's a good result for them? And if there isn't a really good alignment, and to get to that point, yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got to prove your worth. You've got to prove your value. You've got to give, and you may or may not get something in return.
For sure. And you give so much to where it's like they feel bad if they don't do something sort of in return. Is where
And that's a guilt thing.
yeah.
I don't know about that. I
Like
think
I mean, like I guess what I mean is like give so much value that like they come to you when they need something. Like when I'm thinking like on the content side of things, for example, like educating people, like give them so much, like you educate people so much on, for example, cybersecurity, that when they need a cybersecurity thing, they come to David.
oh,
They
I,
come
I
to you.
I'd say yeah, 100% because you've established your credibility as an expert.
Yeah.
You're an expert and you're a name that they know.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's fine for when you're blasting stuff out. But if you're
Yeah.
talking about the immediacy of the people that you're doing business with every day,
Hmm.
I, I'm not sure I have that expectation. I think I would go out and so we align ourselves with people who wear white hats, right? That's clearly what we're about. It's protecting what we believe in. However you want to define that, we probably share the same values. So
Sure.
that's good. And then from my perspective, yeah, freely try and help and share and do all those things
Mhm.
without an expectation of. Um, I think you have to go without the expectation of,
Mhm.
because when you do find the one that clicks, then you can quickly get into your trusted relationship.
Yes.
Um, I'd also say that you give without worrying about, but you quickly qualify the no's. You know, I know that I can give you some stuff, and it okay, maybe there's a little bit of a cost to me, but I give it to you, and I'm not going to assume then that I've got to remain in contact with you for the next 5 years until, because that's a waste of effort for everybody. I'll freely share and you build up your reputation and credibility that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when it comes, I guess, like shifting gears slightly, when it comes to growing the business, like what are the main metrics that you're focusing on to know you're going in the right direction, like as a CEO? What are you looking at to say, okay, we got this, and this. I know we're moving in the right direction.
So it's interesting. Probably a philosophical difference between an American company and a European company. So
Okay.
Europeans will measure everything.
Yeah.
An American and will fall in the balance somewhere. You know, it can be as simplistic as you're measuring your revenue growth. Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit more convoluted that you're looking at your customer acquisition cost.
Yep.
So what?
The-
Yeah, CAC over LTV. Yep, and we can throw in some nuances of different ways of looking at that and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, But actually, you know what things I'm looking at. So yes, I'm running a business. So I'm looking at profitability. Are
Yes.
we doing the right things that we keep everybody going, and a business that's been in a niche like ours. Everybody knows Jeff Mooresbutt, right? Crossing the Chasm. He's a lovely guy. Met
Yeah.
him. Lovely guy. So we're clearly flying across the chasm, and profitability rears its ugly head at the moment because I need to balance the fact of, yeah, we want to keep oxygen as we're flying across this huge chasm. So everybody needs their oxygen, and everybody's got to be well prepared for when we land on the other side.
Yeah.
And I'd actually say that it's a series of chasms because each of the ICPs is moving at different speeds to each other.
Hmm.
So some we've landed, some we're halfway, some we're just about.
Yeah.
So how do you keep it all going? Well, it's got to be profitability. You've got to make sure that the machine functions, which we didn't have to do 3 or 5 years ago because somebody come and say, have 100 million of cash. There you go, have another 100 million. And they don't do that today.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. You're looking at profitability. The one I'm really intrigued with at the moment is speed,
Okay.
because I think the speed to get a transaction over the table is really interesting, right?
Yes.
Especially with the types of customers I'm working with. They're either nation states, tier one financials. I've got some tier two financials, and
Hmm.
but looking at the speed, and I can talk about one global organization. It's taken us 5 years to get them to a table, and there's like, David, here's my procurement process. I'm like, oh, this is really good. Yeah, tap in. Yeah, this is going to be great. And I'm looking at procuring you in Q4 2025, and here's all. I said, well, there's good and bad here. At least it's clear for me. I know what we got to do. The bad news is I'm 12 or 15 months away from okay. It is what it is, and at least it's clear and transparent.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I've got one nation state that's having kittens because I've got them to the procurement gate, and in their words, we need to get your stuff in front of the enemy. Interesting term, that, isn't it? In front of the enemy. And we're doing that in 6 months, and usually we take 3 years, and we're all feeling a little bit edgy because we've never moved this fast, right? And the other one, I've got this stonking great bank which is saying, oh yeah, proof of concept, can I give you some money because I want to make sure that you don't turn this off between when we finish the proof of concept and when we're going to buy your thing. I mean, when we've got procurement involved and they bought your thing.
Yeah.
That's a buying signal. I like that.
Yeah, you're not going to say no to money.
But that speed, it's relatively quick. And if I go back to what's happened over the last 2 years, you could argue more if you wanted to be, but we'll agree on the last 2 years or 18 months in our industry in general. To have gone from it's super slow and nobody wants to an increase in velocity, that's really interesting. And that's about making it easy. How can you make it easy to understand what we do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you roll back, you're talking to other CEOs. What would we say? We'd have said an enterprise sales cycle is 9 months, right? 6 to 9 months, that's an enterprise sales cycle. The last year, you'd have said 12 to 18, possibly more.
Yep.
What if I'm getting into 6, right? If I'm getting into 6 months, all of a sudden you're sitting on the front of your chair saying, how are you managing to do that?
Yeah.
And how can we do more of that? How can we turn that? It's not suddenly because the world woke up.
Do you think that right there, like finding more of those 6-month type of deals, those kind of people, do you think that's the key to sort of unlocking your growth in 2025?
Yes, I think it is. And I'll also add is the 6-month people. Everything we do for the 6-month people, I firmly believe will accelerate the people that are going to take 12 months or whatever. And if I get them screaming into uncomfortable for them 9 months, that's a win. Again, my sausage machine efficiency model, If I can figure out how to do that across all my ICPs and geographies and stuff, doesn't that mean I should be getting more efficient?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
And like, what specific ICPs do you want to make sure you get your sausage machine efficiency going? Like, what's the main focus there?
I've only got 3 ICPs I care about at the moment, introducing a fourth one. Nation states, it's clearly that's where we came from. Like I said, that's the sleepless nights because they move in a time scale, but they're moving uncomfortably for them fast. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
We must be doing things right there. Um, Financial services typically is tier one, tier twos, manufacturing. So those are the 3 most persecuted classes of people.
Yep.
The one I say I care less about,
Mhm.
but it isn't. It's my fourth priority. I need to make sure we carry on delivering the top 3.
Yep.
Is we talk about democratization of what we do, and that's the managed services part
Yes.
of it. So we're already selling that. We're starting to flesh out, and that's about how can we make what we do on a more of an on-demand basis,
Mhm.
and that will enable us to serve lower tier, so smaller organizations. And why is
Mhm.
that important? Because that's one of the stunning realities, Ethan. And actually, your part of the world now that you're in is Dubai, in the Middle East. You see all these banks, and what you don't realize is, in the grand scheme of things, they're small. They've got some nice finance. They've got some nice buildings where you are. They've got all these things, but they're small in terms of they don't have big teams to do all the regulatory stuff that they need to do.
Yeah.
They don't have big teams to do all the security stuff that they need to do. Therefore, they go out to a managed service provider to do all of those things for them on a kind of on demand basis. That's how they all work.
Yes.
And if I want to grow my business in that segment, which there are more of, but who pays less,
Mhm.
yeah, I've got to figure out how I serve many, and that's about making it easy. That's really just following on what we do,
Yes.
just amplified.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, beautiful. No, I think that's it's so interesting. No, and it gives you perspective. That's one of the interesting things. Like you find yourself with the right people and your perspective changes. You think the banks are big and then you go into it, you know, you think your hometown is rich and then you come to Dubai, like all these things. It's like, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, David, really, really appreciate your time here. Thank you so much. And where could people find you, get in contact with you potentially? Where would that be?
Well, LinkedIn, you found me through that. You'll find me at CounterCraft is the countercraftsec.com. You can find me on there, our website.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, or reach out directly. You'll find me at. I don't know whether in the links you'll put my email address, but I'm happy to. I've got some great spam filters if for anybody who wants to sell me double glazing and videos and other stuff. But everybody else,
Yep.
happy to help along the way.